There's certainly a moment in time, I think very capably argue, that he's the most famous person on the planet.
Absolutely.
If he's not, he's in the conversation. Who is the most recognizable name to the most people on planet Earth?
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me as always is Mr. Brian Schultz, The Void. One of our favorite shows where we get to talk about the things that people aren't talking about, but now they're talking about it, Brian. Now they're talking about it in droves. I see the headlines. I see the shows that people are discussing, the certain things that we've been discussing for how long, Brian? How long have we been discussing this? Quite a bit of time. So let's get started with The Void. We're going to be talking about Super Mario Brothers Galaxy trailer, The Last Samurai Last Samurai Standing, Brian, which I haven't tried to watch it. I've seen it. I have it on my queue. I just haven't got, because, my wife wants to watch stuff and it's like, we never get to watch stuff. And I'm trying to watch it with her so that she can enjoy it as well. And I think she will. We just haven't got, I think we probably may do that today. Who knows? We got to keep our son entertained elsewhere to sort of watch this. But Monarch season 2 trailer with Kong, and we get some Odyssey photos and hype, and a new Star Trek sets writers and directors. As you recall, a few episodes ago, actually no, yes, I'll say that an episode ago, where we discussed in The Void Part 2 what the Star Trek movie or IP should entail going forward.
They listened.
Yes. So let's get started. Masters of the universe. Let me just set the foundation before we move forward. I've been talking about this for a while. We've been talking about this for a while, but I've been the one that's saying, this is going to be $1 billion. And they showed their hand when we got that first trailer, Brian. Global box office, $1 billion. I've been calling it. People have been looking at me like you crazy. They've been laughing and be scoffing at me. As it gets closer and closer, Brian, the excitement continues to build. The talk continues to swell in numbers of people talking about it. Why? Because we've had screenings, Brian. Talk about it.
So 2 test screenings confirmed to have occurred. One in New York, one in LA. Obviously, the gag orders are in place, but that hasn't prevented some flavor from coming out. And look, we know what the hype train is for different things, but I'll give you a couple points. One is more general, and I'll give you one that's a little more specific. This is a quote. I believe this is from I actually think this is from the John Campea show, but he's citing someone else who was there. Quote, I've talked to somebody who has seen He-Man, who has seen it in its early stages, and they said it's amazing. And this isn't somebody who's got any dog in it. This isn't somebody that has anything to benefit from it. They said it's amazing. They said they were totally shocked, completely surprised, but they said it's amazing, end quote.
What do you say to that, yo? What do you say to that? What have you been saying? Not like we've seen the movie. It's not like we've seen the movie, Brian. But we've had our speculation as to what this movie can and might be, because of how far they are willing to go in showing us the visuals. You've heard us say it before. Pandora. Why Pandora? Because of the world they created and how fascinated people are in that world. What did they do in Badlands? They took us to a world never seen before. Eternia is that place. So it will be interesting to see or hear what people have to say about that world, that world of He-Man that they have created. Brian, I got a Morpheus.
Do you believe it now, Trinity?
No, that's what it is. Yeah, he's beginning to believe. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to find that and put it in there, because it is what it is, yo. We've been talking about this. How long have we been talking about this, Brian? Now you want to be like, yeah, this guy actually, yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. Yo, you know what's funny? I went back and looked at a video of me, Tracy, and Freddie. Shout out to Brooklyn Bridge and shout out to Spivey 4994. Where we talked about He-Man and the possibility of He-Man and how the feat that they are trying to accomplish here, Brian, was not impossible, but highly unlikely in terms of how good this could be. And again, watching He-Man from back in the day, I can't watch more than 4 episodes. Funny thing, I was watching Thundercats. I went into season 2. I said, I can't watch this anymore. Because it was just, I'm tired of hearing Thundercats Ho. I'm tired of hearing Mumra laughing and trying to get him and failing over and over and over and over again. It's like it got old already. What are people saying about this, Brian?
Here is one that gives a little more about what they saw. Tonally, not a huge surprise, saying, lighter in tone and comparable to the first Thor movie in terms of a little bit of how they use humor alongside the action. I think that's acceptable and kind of makes sense in the context of what we know about starting in present day Earth and going to Eternia. Leans into humor, but has a ton of heart and action. Tons of action! ! Here's the one that I just circle. All of the character and vehicle designs are very faithful to the original toys. That's it. That's half Steel G.I. Joe. That's half the battle right there. Sword choreography is outstanding. Sets and set pieces, fantastic. Nicholas as He-Man and Adam is great. He looks great and he looks the part. And Jared Leto is shockingly great as Skeletor. So keep in mind, this movie is not finished. So they're seeing a test screening of an unfinished film. So this person is saying Skeletor's face is a lot of CGI, but it's not clear if that's finished CGI or not. Tons of Easter eggs and references to old internet memes. There's a riff referencing Highlander, but it seemed like more of a temp soundtrack because they set one of the sword fights to Princes of the Universe, which was the Queen song that is the theme for Highlander. But this person is speculating that's just because they don't have the audio and the score done yet. But Pablo, character and vehicle designs faithful to the original toys, and Jared Leto is good. This movie has it if those two things are true.
You said it right there. Skeletor is good. That means perhaps we don't get to see a flashback of who Skeletor was before. We don't get to see Jared Leto's face, which is key here. Because we did an episode where we discussed the monkey wrench in the whole thing. And that's Jared Leto. You know what I feel like when you say all these things? Remember Pai Mei? When he was satisfied with something, he'd be like, he'd rub his, you know what I'm saying? That's how I feel like right now. You saying all this stuff. Because we've been calling it. I've been very adamant about $1 billion, and I'm not going to let my foot off the gas because it continues to prove my suspicion, Brian, of how big this is trying to be. Continue.
So I think what I hear, if this report, which is more detailed, is accurate, I think it's the smartest way to try to do this. I think there's 2 probable paths to doing this, and I think this is the one that has the biggest audience. So there is the path of make this really gritty, make this like hard PG-13, even trending toward R, and really like dig in on the sword and sorcery, like, and make it Gladiator style or Conan style. But weirdly, I feel like that's a mistake because the show and the toys are so campy that I just feel like you're almost having to pull the audience too far away from the source material to really make it be He-Man anymore and Masters of the Universe anymore. So I actually think if this is true, a Thor 1 style tone and color palette with like really faithful characterizations and looks, that feels to me like this is going to be like a PG movie, not a PG-13 movie, and actually will be big enough to get families and a new generation being like, I want some He-Man toys for Christmas. I want my Battle Cat, and I want my new Castle Grayskull, which looks a lot like the old Castle Grayskull. It's just cooler. Like, I think that's a smart creative move by Travis Knight, but I think that's a smart tactical move by the studio to be like, this is the lane that if this is going to work and become a franchise, this is the lane we have to live in.
To quote Spivey4994, this is Lunchbox. This is merchandising. This is huge. You know what I keep thinking about that will make it dope? If He-Man's sword is so heavy, he's the only one that can wield it. Because it's not
like
because
Thor's hammer. Like
yes,
Thor's hammer.
but
Yeah.
not because there's some mystical thing that he had. It's because he is that powerful, Brian. Imagine him catching boulders and throwing it and hearing the grunts when he catches it. Those are the little things that we saw in the He-Man show cartoon that, you know, yeah, this is the most powerful man in the universe. This dude was crushing an uncrushable. It was like a diamond and he crushed it. There are things feats that he pulls off here, Brian, that if they are able to pull them off and make this dude the most powerful man in the universe, and he's the only one that could wield a sword because it's that heavy, and nobody can beat him because he's that strong. That's why Skeletor is always looking to beat this guy in some way or some fashion, trying to wield some power. This is going to be interesting, Brian. This is going to be $1 billion. I'm going to keep on saying it.
I'm still not there, but I will gladly sign up for half of that and good buzz, and we actually get a universe out of Masters of the Universe. This is one of those where, like, I really want a universe. Like, I do want there to be a series of these because it is, if nothing else, it is childhood, it is nostalgia, but it's fun. Like, if you can do it, you want something that's just truly fun and different. Here's one question I have that's not in the screening material, but I am fascinated with. And we talked about it a little bit on the show, but as we get closer, I'm getting more locked in on this, which is this idea of what does Galitzin have to capture as He-Man to really embody He-Man? Because, you know, we've talked about the profile shot. Look, I mean, the guy's gone from being like a string bean to being a built human, but he doesn't look enormous in the silhouette.
No.
He doesn't even look, you know, necessarily as powerfully built as Schwarzenegger did in Conan the Barbarian.
No.
So my question to you is, when he draws the sword and has the power, do you think it would be a good idea to use digital effects to make him larger? Because there is a human limitation, right? Like an altered beast style, like he literally grows and he proportionally looks bigger, and now it's more believable that he can do He-Man things beyond just what his training allows him to do.
I'll give you 2 words. Free guy.
So I know what Pablo's talking about there, but I almost feel like the He-Man unlimited strength or seemingly unlimited strength almost requires some enhancement beyond just, hey, this guy was in the gym for however long and put on however many pounds of muscle. And, you know, even if like Alan Ritchson was playing He-Man, and he obviously at 260 pounds has an incredible physique at 6'4", there is still this aspect of superhuman things that He-Man has to do that are colossal, to where it almost feels like you do need him to physically just look like he's the only person who could do those things in those situations. So I am tending toward, if the CGI is good, if the effects are good, to do a little bit of Lord of the Rings, you know, magic and make Galitzin bigger when he is He-Man versus when he's Adam.
I think we heard from the CEO of Mattel. She saw it, right? Remember we talked about
she said there are 8-foot characters on set.
Exactly. How does He-Man compare? Right? This could all be a ruse of them showing us, is it Matt Galitzin?
Nick.
We already seen what Nick Galitzin sort of looks like. This could possibly be just, again, a ruse as to this is who He-Man is, but this is not who you'll see in this movie. We'll see the He-Man perhaps that you're used to seeing in the animated shows that they've done over and over again, a big dude. And I'll use the example of Free Guy again. There's a character in there that they CGI to look huge and in shape. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that with him, Brian.
Yeah, because he's 6 feet tall in real life. And the reality is, like, think about He-Man astride Battle Cat, who's enormous, right? Battle Cat's not the size of an actual panther. He's 4 or 5 times the size. He grows. When the sword goes on Cringer grows like multiples in size. A 6-foot man on top of a creature that size doesn't make any sense. He-Man has to look bigger than that for that. And then you can, again, this is all
like he
magic of movie
fits
making.
that. Yes, yes,
Right.
yes,
That's what I'm
yes,
saying.
yes,
This is stuff you can do. It's just the sensibilities. It's like we were talking about the smart decision in Predator Badlands to make Deck short. Like that's the opposite, right? You're very smartly making a simple physical decision that adds to your storytelling. He-Man has to be big, like bigger than big.
It's He-Man. It's He-Man, Brian. This is fascinating stuff.
I mean, the only thing that's got me a little bit like, as I said, in the cringer mode is like, I just don't want the hype to get away from this. I kind of liked it better when this was like flying under the radar. And now I feel like the world is coming around to like, oh my God, they pulled off a He-Man movie 6 months before the movie comes out. And I'm like, we haven't even seen the first teaser yet, which that is still the biggest demerit in the rumor mill is by all accounts, the freaking teaser ends with "I have the power."
I hope not. I hope to God not. That is meant for the theaters. And I was thinking about it while you were saying it. Imagine 6, 7, perhaps not even 8 kids. This is a PG movie, right? If this is
I
a
think
PG
it's going to be
movie,
PG, not PG-13.
okay, if it's PG, Brian, imagine seeing that shot. I have the power. With the audio and how it sounded. When Cringer was roaring, it was deafening.
Yeah.
You can pretty much imagine the levels peaking. This is nothing but big. And they are going for it, Brian. And so far, they keep going up to the batter's box to deliver something, and they constantly get on base, Brian. The home run is going to be the movie, $1 billion.
Here's my last question before we leave He-Man. But in terms of the timing of the storyline, so we know we start out on present day Earth. He doesn't really know who he is. He's transported to Eternia. So if we borrow this Matrix analogy, and maybe no, not Thor 1. If we borrow the Matrix analogy, how would you stage his progression as He-Man? Because what I mean by that is we know when he draws a sword and he says, "I have the power," he instantly is everything He-Man is. That is a binary moment. The story has to have an arc. Do you want him to have like a middle act where he's in Eternia, but he's not full-on He-Man? Or would you rather have him become He-Man earlier in the film so there's more scenes of him as do you see what I'm saying? Like in terms of like how you would stage this, and like because of as an example, the Lundgren movie.
He was He-Man throughout the joint.
He is, but he isn't. He is He-Man throughout, but he doesn't draw the sword and say, "I have the power" until the final 10 minutes of the movie. Neo doesn't become Neo actually until the very end of the movie, but his epic fight with Agent Smith in the subway station isn't until the last 25 minutes of the film. His assault on the building isn't until the last 35 minutes of the film. So where do you want He-Man to start doing He-Man things in this movie?
I would say early third, third act.
Okay, so you're willing to wait till the second half of the movie to actually see
I wanted to
this.
build this up because what we're supposed to be seeing is amazing stuff. It's like, for me, it's like seeing Thundercats whole throughout the whole. I don't want to see this dude called in the Thundercats 3-4 times. I want to see that
that's what I mean,
have
like,
the power once.
But that would imply that you probably need like a set piece or a battle scene in Eternia where he's unable to be He-Man and the likes of Man-at-Arms and Tila get routed by Beastman, Merman, and those guys.
We suspect that He-Man is on Earth because of Skeletor. He did something, and we'll find that out. This is obviously Skeletor's behind He-Man being on Earth, being transported, whatever the case may be. Everything is Skeletor at this point. We can safely, I think, assume that. His whomever or how he is able to get back to Eternia and see what's happening or what has happened. Perhaps even showing up in the middle of something where where he finally has to transform to go save these guys, or whatever the case may be, should be left towards the third act, and we have a building of or a buildup to He-Man, not from He-Man himself or Prince Adam himself, because he don't know he's He-Man, but from Man-at-Arms, Teela, the Sorceress, Skeletor even. Others making their statements around He-Man that builds this dude's greatness up. And then we finally get to see it. That to me right there, I'm going to say it again. It's $1 billion movie.
Speaking of movies that did do $1 billion, Super Mario Brothers, wasting no time. We get an actual pretty decent sized teaser trailer for Super Mario Galaxy. What did you think? I assume you watched it. What did you think of the footage that we got?
I saw it. I mean, it looks beautiful. It's the worlds again, Brian. It's the worlds that we've been to before and want to see it from a different perspective. I think that's the hook. They're playing the hits, although from a different perspective, from a game to a movie experience. And I think they're drawing on that nostalgia every time they show us something. And I think it's gonna work again. Again, it's for kids, yo.
Yeah.
And for the adults that played the games and want to see it anyway, to see what they've done, what they've created, and how they bring us back. Yo, there's so many things that they can do here because of what they've done in the past that they can draw from. They're not going to miss with this. So it was fine. It was fine. My expectations are the same as it was before the original came out. So
yeah, I agree. The only thing that surprised me a little bit was that Yoshi was the credit scene of the first one, the Yoshi egg, and there's really no reference to Yoshi in the teaser at all. So I don't know what. I was a little surprised that there wasn't. I was kept waiting for like this little payoff of the egg hatching or something, but and he is and that character is confirmed to be in this film. Look, I mean, this thing has the advantage now of it's one of the 3 or 4 highest grossing animated movies of all time. So the sequel will be highly anticipated. It seems like $1 billion lock. And the only question is, can they make it bigger, or whether you can only truly capture the nostalgia to the fullest extent one time. But I think this is, I mean, if you're drafting box office for, 2026 or 20, this is one of the easiest picks you should be making at the top of your board at this point, that this is going to be north of $1 billion and have a massive opening weekend, maybe the biggest opening weekend of the year.
And when does this come out again?
I think it's coming out in 2026, isn't it? Hang on, let me grab the summer 2026. Let me grab April 2026.
Wow, April 2026. That's also Michael Jackson.
Correct.
Season, which we'll touch on a little bit later. Because we got a great response on our show talking about Michael, and I just want to dive a little deeper into what possibly can we get from this. Last Samurai Standing, Brian, you saw it?
I did.
You finished it?
Yep.
What'd you think?
I really enjoyed it. So based on a novel, based on a manga, that's pretty famous. 6 episodes, live action adaptation, just dropped on Netflix. I really enjoyed it. I think what I enjoyed most was kind of like how authentic and beautiful the costumes, the choreography, and the sets were. Everything is real. Like everything is real. There's a lot of, if you read on the makeup of this, there's a lot of description of these sort of like large scale scenes where there's like 300 actors and 300 costumes who are all engaged in some of these like melees and things like that. And it does a really nice job. It's a little bit of a convoluted story. Like I'm not familiar with the novel or the manga, so I'm coming at it totally fresh. And so I'm sure there's some things in here that people already familiar with the source material immediately are clued in on and like immediately recognize and know, whereas I didn't. So I'm trying to like piece together these overlapping themes that the series is trying to get at. But I found myself, I will say that the dubbing's a little mixed on this one, there's a couple of characters where it felt a little bit more like the old kung fu movies. There's just a few. There's one in particular.
Okay.
But then some of the leads, the dubbing is still really good and sounds really good. But
did you attempt to listen to it in Japanese?
I did not.
Okay,
I listened to it in English. But I will say, like, I hope they bring this back. There are moments in the action that I think are next level. And I think if you're familiar with the legacy of samurai movies in particular, I liked that they seemingly paid homage to those types of films, because the action in a lot of those types of films is short and quick. It's like this long buildup to a duel between these two characters, but the actual duel often doesn't last that long. It's almost like a couple of like quick strokes, killing stroke. Like, this show does a nice job at points of doing that, where it's like there's a build, it brings two characters together, almost like in a video game. In fact, the last episode of the season is called Mortal Kombat. And actually brings them together. It looks like a video game, setup. And then the actual fights are done at incredible speed. Like, the speed at which some of these guys are wielding the sword is ridiculous. And like, you're like trying to, like, I need to rewind and see how they did that again. But then it resolves within 10 seconds. And I kind of like that, as opposed to some of them are drawn out. They do draw out some of the fights,
Okay.
but some of the fights are actually like very quick and very cool. And so, as much as sometimes the show gets a little bogged down, when it brings you back to one of these set pieces, you're just like, that's just really cool. Like, there's a couple of shots with, there's like a running chase through a forest where like arrows are being shot. And like, because they're samurai, they're able to like, turn and like slice the arrows out of the air and like come out of nowhere and grab them. And like, there's just stuff they can do that I think is pretty creative. So I found it pretty enjoyable and original as sort of a piece of action. And like I said, I hope they bring it back. I would certainly watch more of it.
Okay. I definitely, I have it in my queue, and I want to watch it, and I'll try to watch it this week. But you definitely give it a recommendation for people to check out.
Yeah, I don't think it's perfect. Like I said, I am not a purist, so I'd be curious, like, people who are very familiar with the source material, did they feel like it was betrayed or not? But I just like the practicality and like some of the martial arts and some of the swordplay in particular. I thought was just outstanding, and then the angles and the like the natural sets they're using. So no, I definitely enjoyed it. Like, to me, like, my early, like, if you asked me to give it a rating, it's probably like a solid 4. It's not like a perfect series, but it's definitely like a 4. And it's a really easy watch. These episodes are like 40 minutes each, so you can kind of rip through it on a binge pretty easily.
Monarch season 2 trailer with Kong in the mix.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, Brian? I didn't even know there was a Monarch 2 trailer. And I didn't know that Kong was involved. What are your thoughts on this universe, obviously, that they're building? Because this still has connection to the movies, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Which, as we said, that universe continues to make more and more money, even as it gets a little bit more silly as they go. I liked season 1. I thought season 1 got off to a really strong start, and then I thought it kind of bogged down. Like, I kind of got to the end of the season, I was like, this is an 8-episode season that's masquerading as 10. So we'll see what they do in the second. But I thought Kurt Russell is excellent in the show. I thought his son is excellent too, playing the same character in flashback. Yes. I thought that was one of the coolest things they did, and they both did a really nice job. This show also got to Anna Sawai before she became the lead on Shogun. So this is like, you can see her as a star here before she becomes like a star on Shogun, which is also, by the way, Shogun season 2 is now filming. I didn't actually know that Kong was in this either, for sure. And I thought it was kind of cool that he popped up in the middle of this, where I was like, okay, and Godzilla doesn't. So Godzilla is the focal point of season 1. If they're going to make Kong the focal point of season 2, I actually think that's probably not a bad idea. I'm always a sucker for the monster stuff, which I thought was very good in season 1 for a TV show, that it looked way more expensive than it deserved to be. So I will definitely watch this coming in February. I do think this is one of those where I don't know how many seasons there are in something like this as a TV show when you've got the movies going side by side. So I'm kind of hoping this is like, maybe you can get a third season out of this, but this does need to sort of set up some kind of resolution or some kind of thing that they can tie up in the films. I don't think this is 7 seasons of TV waiting to happen, but I'll be there for season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I liked Monarch. Me and my wife really enjoyed watching the show. Uh, it definitely that's like towards the end sort of slowed down for us, and we haven't really actually thought about it since then. Obviously, we got what's her name, the girl from Shogun.
Yeah, Anna Sawai.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
we saw it, we're like, oh snap, there she is, the new Lucy Liu. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Are you excited for this Monarch season 2 show? Let us know in the comment section below. Odyssey. This has been one of the most hyped shows or movies. Sorry, this has been one of the most hyped movies that they're even selling tickets years in advance, and they're probably going for thousands of dollars for you to be there on opening night to see the Odyssey. Brian, what are your thoughts so far on what they've released as far as photos, and what have they been saying as far as hype?
So we'll be getting the first full teaser trailer this December, supposedly. So they never released the one online that they posted in the summer. But Empire has done a feature on the film, which has a number of new photos. Photos look great. Damon, to me, looks surprisingly good as Odysseus. He's not the guy I would have picked for this part, even though he's worked with Nolan twice before in Interstellar and Oppenheimer. But when you see him with the beard and you see him not overly muscled, but sort of really in shape for the role, he cuts a real nice look as a Greek hero. But here comes the hype, Pablo. Here we go. We know this stuff with Chris Nolan, right? So Matt Damon has heard Channing Tatum and Simu Liu talk about those people talk about their
I'm gonna
movie,
top this.
and he said, "I got something for you." But it's funny when we're talking about a Nolan project, right? The credibility is a little different given the man's track record. So what you hear is a little different. So, and what Damon says here, I'll give you the quote, is a little different than that other type of hype. So I did want to, there's a subtlety here that I think is worth noting. He says, quote to Empire, "I can say without hyperbole that it," meaning the Odyssey, "was the best experience of my career. A massive production spanning vast swaths of the globe, open oceans, thousands of extras, gigantic props, including an actual Trojan horse," to which Damon says, "I saw that horse on the beach and I was just like, beep. It was just so cool," end quote. See, what I think is different about that quote is he's talking about it as an actor. He's saying, as an actor, this is the best time I had making the movie. He's not promising you that this is the best movie that's ever been made. That's the difference to me between what he's saying and what Channing Tatum's saying. He's just saying, for all these productions I've been a part of, this was the most fun, coolest, and farthest out there to do. And I kind of like, with Nolan, you believe that because it's all real. He does say something really funny, though, about Nolan's shooting style, which we've heard, like, because we kind of heard that he's an actor's director. Like, he's not really like a drill sergeant. So he goes, quote, "We were shooting that Trojan horse stuff next week. So I go to Chris, 'How are you going to do that?' And Nolan goes, 'I don't know. We'll just get in there and figure it out.'"
And that's the beauty of Nolan. He has a vision of what this needs to look like. And we understand. It's like, for me, I sort of look at it almost like going to the plate. It's like, you don't say, "Oh, I'm going to go hit a home run."
Yeah.
You see what cards are being dealt and you try to make your adjustments and you try to figure things out.
Yeah.
And he's going to the plate. And this shot right here, or wherever, however they're going to do it, he has a vision for it. And he talks to his people. How are we going to do this? We'll figure it out. He's not worried.
Nope.
Why? I have all this that I've done. And at the end of the day, we figured it out. And Nolan is the dude, man. Nolan is the guy. And Matt Damon is talking about his experience, as you said. He's not telling you what you're going to experience.
No. He is telling you a little bit about the authenticity of the story, because he says, quote, "If you're going to have an existential crisis as you pass the sirens lashed to a mast, it's there. If it says you're running for your life from a cyclops, you're going to run for your life. Chris doesn't hide the ball," end quote. Meaning this is, the Odyssey, it's impossible to adapt everything that's in that story. It covers, years and years of Odysseus' life from the Trojan War to get back to Ithaca. But there's an implication there that he's playing the hits from the standpoint of the story. So you should get most of the major points of that journey, which, the last time anyone really tried that was like the 60s. And that's something that Nolan says. I don't have the quote in front of me, but they asked him, like, why'd you make this? Like, why bother with this? And he kind of makes that point of like, I looked around the Hollywood landscape. I tried to see what wasn't there or hadn't been tried in a long time. And he's like, no one had tried a mythological epic adaptation for decades. He's like, so I decided I wanted to try that. And that's why he's doing it. That's part of what I enjoy about him as a filmmaker. There's just no retread. Like, he loves to revisit theme, like time, manipulation of time. But in terms of genre and subject matter, this is not a man who retraces his steps.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoy that.
He goes for it each and every time.
Thoroughly enjoy that about him. I actually watched Tenet again the other day because it came on Netflix. And I'm like, I have to admit, I have now seen that movie probably 10 or 11 times. I still have no idea what's happening in that final battle sequence. Like, I'm watching the guys attacking in reverse, moving forward. I'm like, I have no idea what's happening, but it doesn't matter because I'm just transfixed at this
on the execution of this. Yes.
Of like, how did this guy make this look this good on, like, where that building blows up in reverse and forward? I'm like, that's impossible, but it looks so good. I'm just like, I don't care, like, that I don't understand half of this. I'm like, I just enjoy this escapism so much.
Yep, the Odyssey, man. This is going to be huge. This is going to be huge.
This is one of those two where I do almost think like it requires multiple viewings, because this is one of those, because he shot it exclusively in IMAX. Okay, I have to see it in IMAX. But because the way they're selling tickets, like, you may not get a seat, right, initially. So, like, you got to be like, if I'm going to see this in IMAX, I'm not going to be in the first row. I'm going to wait till I can get a prime seat. It's like, but then it's like, can you wait 3 weeks to see this movie at all? No. So you're like, all right, I'll go see it. I'll go see it large format Dolby. I'll go see it regular just because I got to see it. And then I got to see it the way he wanted me to see it. So he's already got your money multiple times, basically.
Yeah. Star Trek.
Yes.
The reset.
Kudos. Someone was listening to our show.
Is this a Barry Horowitz moment? I don't know. But this is certainly like minds thinking on the best way to approach this. Brian, what's the latest?
So we got a report. Obviously, last week was David Ellison had mandated a complete reset post the Skydance merger, complete reset of the Star Trek universe. Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto crew out, new Star Trek in. We asked the question on our last show about, like, what does a reboot of Star Trek look like? Is it another Kirk and crew? Is it another Picard and crew? Or is it something totally different to boldly go where no one has gone before? Seems like the studio has chosen the last option. They hired Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly to write, produce, and direct the film. Now, those may not be household names, but they've done two things of note in the genre. First off, they are the people behind Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Nice little sort of derivative update of an IP there with Chris Pine, incidentally. Also, they are the writers of Spider-Man Homecoming, which obviously rebooted Spider-Man and brought him into the MCU formally with Tom Holland. So there's two nice little things on the resume there. But they are tasked with, quote, a completely new take on Star Trek not connected to any current or previous TV series, movie, or prior movie development project, end quote. To which we say, good job.
Because of the proximity of the shows that we've done, it allows me to quickly go back to the conversations we had regarding Star Trek and what this could be, should be, possibly be, and to now this. Like I said before, if you haven't heard it anywhere else, you heard it here first on the Nerd Gen Report. They are going for it in a new direction because they've done it before and it has been successful. Why can't we do this again? With a different crew, different personalities, having to do the same job. There's no different from them prepping Tim Cook's successor. Somebody else has to take over. Somebody else has to go where no man's gone before.
Yeah.
So this is the right move. And if you're gonna fail doing it this way than trying to rehash something you've done before and nobody really connecting with it. Because it's new, I think the curiosity will be there, and obviously with what trailer they give us, the excitement will probably also be there as well. Because again, the mission or the mantra of this show is to go boldly go where no man has gone before, and they're going for it.
I think one thing that is, I think a little bit hinted at here, but I think would be the wise decision, I talked about it last time, is go into the future further. This IP became obsessed with going backward. So that's how you got, hey, we've got to do the origin of Kirk in the J.J. Abrams series. Even Strange New Worlds, which fans generally like, is Christopher Pike. That's the predecessor commanding the Enterprise to Kirk. There's the series Enterprise, which went back centuries. That's an older, Starfleet Academy, which they just have launched as a TV series under the old banner. All of that stuff is prequel. It's like prequel. But to me, part of the reason why Next Generation was the success that it was it took the Kirk original series as canon and went forward 100 years. I think they have the opportunity here to do something similar. You know what? Go further. Go 300 years. Let Next Gen and DS9 and original series be canon still. Let that be canon. You can reference those events. You can reference the Kobayashi Maru, Wrath of Khan. You can reference all that, but do it from the 27th century or the 28th century and show us your view of the Gene Roddenberry vision of the universe 300 years down the road after the events of all of those. That is the essence of Star Trek to me, much more so than what we've gotten for the most part in the last, 20, 30 years. And I think it seems like they have been tasked with the ability to do that.
When I did my Willie Dynamite stroll down the stairs, when they went back in time to they asked Spock how to beat Khan. How did you beat them? When they went back in time, I was out. And I never looked back after that. I really didn't care for any. I really, there was no excitement or eagerness to see what next they were going to go, because, for me, doing that just sort of like the fact that they're doing this now has me excited, because I've never been a Star Trek guy.
Yeah.
But I did go see the Star Trek Chris Pine movies. This will get me interested in seeing what they will do.
The first one is a very good blockbuster movie. Is it a great Star Trek movie? I think a lot of Star Trek purists would say no. I would think a lot of Star Trek purists would say that's J.J. Abrams making Star Wars under a Star Trek banner because he never thought he was going to get to do Star Wars, which he obviously ultimately did 6 years later. The second one is a complete failure. It's interesting that critics like Star Trek Into Darkness, because that kind of tells you how many critics know nothing about Star Trek. Because that whole Benedict Cumberbatch is not Khan, but he is Khan. And then I'm going to basically redo the end of Wrath of Khan, but now I'm going to have Kirk die instead of Spock, except he's not going to die. That is J.J. Abrams at his worst, where he's just
that is J.J. Abrams' reputation of not being able to land a plane.
You got it. And then being like too smart for his own good, or being like, I can get the audience with this twist that everyone saw coming and had no impact. And like, he completely misunderstood the Khan character, right? He has a great actor in Cumberbatch, and he completely misunderstood like what Khan was really about in the original. So like that movie is sort of where this thing goes off the rails, the whole sort of sequence. But I think, this is an opportunity to really get back to the essence and the greatness of what makes Star Trek, and what makes Star Trek different than Star Wars and Aliens and Avatar and some of these other now sci-fi franchises that have, been more successful, been more durational. So I am legitimately excited to see what they do with this now, with this little blurb of completely new.
And for our final topic, let's dive a little deeper into what this Michael Jackson movie shall be, because again, I had shout outs to Freddie Maloney, Brooklyn Bridge, had an interesting conversation with him regarding Michael Jackson. And he said that this movie has the potential of getting towards Infinity War and Endgame type numbers. At first, I scoffed at it, Brian. I was like, you are crazy. The further and further along we got into this conversation, I thought of the possibilities. There are a lot of intriguing little nuggets in here, Brian, that could possibly take it to that level of success. Michael Jackson, and this again, I've spoken to other people just randomly, like, you see that Michael Jackson movie, whatever, right? And the one thing that kept coming up is Michael Jackson is a global figure. How many people are interested in this story and the little details that we perhaps never got to see? Again, would you agree, Brian, that this movie is the families, the Jackson families, greenlighting this story, this movie, putting this together? They're behind saying yes or no. Do you agree with that, or is there some possibility of other people? I mean, obviously there's a collaboration involved, yes, but the ultimate say in terms of, yes, we want this movie to be released, this story to be told, is the Jacksons.
Well, the movie is a state approved, if that's what you're asking.
Yes. Okay.
The controversy around the making of this movie was simply that there was a breakdown of what was allowed, both on the part of the screenwriters and the estate. The estate itself apparently made a mistake with this. Like, somebody in their legal team did not properly vet what they could write about in the first go.
That says this. They had a perspective on that part of Michael's life. Now, what was that perspective? Could it have been the perspective of, these dudes are trying to get our brother?
Oh, it was, by all accounts. But what I heard was the depiction. So it's one specific family, the Chandler family. Their agreement with the Jackson estate in court prohibited any usage, characterization, or dramatization of their story and the family's interaction with the Jackson family, including Mike. And apparently, for some reason, the John Logan script, the original iteration, the reports were the third act of the movie, that relationship was central to the third act of the movie. And the Chandler family was, quote, described as money grubbing in that script, which you kind of would expect, given it's estate approved, right? So that somebody caught that to basically being like, we gonna get sued to the moon and lose if we get this in, if we send this out.
Yes.
So they had to fix it.
To me, Brian, and I was having this conversation, there's a lot of little things here, Brian, that could get people curious and excited about to see this in the theater. Especially, listen, if you look and think about what Michael experienced, he was a star from jump, from a very early age, and that was his life. And he even got bigger and bigger. And obviously there's a decline, obviously, right? Yeah. But at his heyday, what was that experience like? And I think to help us see that and see what decision-making Michael had to do, how was he in terms of when he was presented with certain scenarios and how he wanted to go, are the intriguing parts of this.
Let me ask you this question. I think there's certainly a moment in time where you could argue, I think very capably argue, that he's the most famous person on the planet.
Absolutely.
Right. I think if he's not, he's in the conversation.
Yes.
Like, who is the most recognizable name to the most people on planet Earth? There is a moment in time where Michael Jackson is the answer to that question. So then you would say, zoom out and say, in the lifetime of people who are able to go and see movies now, where is the name of Michael Jackson in terms of recognition to those people. He's probably still in the top 10, no? I mean, just if I said, like, who are the 10 people you can name off the top of your head in any capacity, any walk of life that you would recognize? I think he's on that list.
Yeah.
More so than I think he's up. I think of any musician in the musician class, in sort of the celebrity class, I think he's in that like elite of elite. It's like him, it's like Elvis,
Absolutely.
Beatles.
Absolutely.
Right? Like there's a class of music, and that's what I mean by like it's not a disrespect to Bob Marley or Bob Dylan or Elton John. Like these are certainly very famous people. But there's a level of notoriety that he achieved that they did not.
Yeah.
And there's a level of lasting, not just appeal, but intrigue, shall we say, around the persona that he has that very few people had. I think this will make $1 billion. Will it make 2? 2 is hard, man. That's been done by 5 movies all time, and those movies are all franchise IP movies other than Titanic. Like, I think 2 is hard.
I
But
think
could
if you
this
think
could
about
this be clear a bill? Could this clear a bill easy? Yeah, it could.
given all the little intricacies of Michael's life, his music, who he was on a regular day, like waking up, Michael. Those are all little things that people are gonna want to see, yo. His interactions with his brothers and sisters.
Yep.
Him being who he was, how they viewed him. And then you got the music.
Yep. Best song list you could ever have, basically.
How do you not go see this more than once in the theaters?
Yep.
With friends? People. Michael Jackson was, like, if you think about his performance of Billie Jean, I remember sitting in the living room with everybody in my family and tell you, some of my family didn't speak English, but they knew Michael Jackson. They didn't know Billie Jean was not they didn't know that. They just saw this dude performing and having people go crazy over him. That's how big he is.
So I'm going to give you, this is where do I get the $1 billion from, and why did I say this way back when we were doing our year preview show? I just look at the Bohemian Rhapsody precedent, and like, don't tell me that Queen is on the same level as Michael Jackson in terms of notoriety, because they're not. Yeah. As interesting a story as Freddie Mercury is, there's nobody like Michael Jackson. But here's my point: Bohemian Rhapsody was critically a divisive film. 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it didn't come in with like, oh my God, you got to see this from the critics, right? $910 million worldwide, 700 million of which came from overseas. And if you go through country by country, no one country dominates. Japan is actually the biggest market at just over $100 million. This is not superhero movie where China shows up for 400, 500, 600, and it's not going to show up today. This was every country in the world wanted to see the life and times of Freddie Mercury and Queen to the tune of $910 million worldwide. That's why Michael Jackson's biopic can make north of $1 billion easy. Is it going to do 600 million US? No, probably not. But it doesn't need to. Could it
what did Black Panther do in the US?
700. But like, could this do 350 in the US and do 900 overseas to $1.25 billion? Yes, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be amazing for that to happen.
Yeah.
That's the point. Like, it doesn't have to be like 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is the fascination of, wow, they're putting his life and times on the big screen. I've got the director of Training Day, and someone from the family is playing him, who, the way they're at least showing in the teaser, looks and sounds pretty credible facsimile of this character.
Regarding the situation with the questionable associations he had with other people. I talked to Freddie about this, and he seemed to agree. Like, if they address it, will it be Michael addressing it? Like, do you see Michael having conversations with kids? Or do you see his family talking about it? Like, yo, why Mike always hanging out with these kids, man? We got to talk to him. Is it something that is going to be addressed? And I also looked at it from the perspective of, if you saw the Batman, we understood that look he gave that kid. You know what I'm saying? This is,
Okay.
it's like, how do they show this? If they want to play it safe, they
Well,
do it through a perspective of the family, and that being an issue, not in this one, but in the second one that they possibly may do. If they cover that part of his life, because it seems like we're going to get that other part of his life, correct?
well, first off, this is a state approved, right? So this is not going to be the surviving R. Kelly doc, okay? Like, that's not the route this movie's going to go, okay? Okay, let's be clear about this. The question is really just how much do they address it at all, versus the pop artist side, right? The teaser was a very much play the hits teaser, and it worked. Viewership of the teaser was record for a Lionsgate movie. Like, this could be like defining for their studio. I think they also have the get out of jail free card of, we know that this is a 2-part enterprise. I actually don't think you're going to see it at all in the movie you see in April, because by all accounts, in the story they wanted to tell originally, most of that came in the end of it, which would be part 2.
Yes.
So I would surmise most of what we get in this part, which they don't call part 1, smartly for marketing, is the rise of the Jackson 5, Michael's launch as a solo artist, things like the Billie Jean performance, the debut of the Moonwalk. You know, maybe you get as far as the MTV Video Music Awards with Slash or something like that. But like, I even think there'll probably be at least a decade worth, the 90s leading up to his final tour and his death. I don't even know that that's going to be in this movie if they intend to put out a part 2, which would mean all the controversial stuff that they even would think about addressing from the estate's point of view, they can kind of hold that back and see the audience response to this. And that may shape what they actually put on screen at all in the second one. So yes, this is going to be Jackson Estate glasses on anything you do see. And I just, I mean, as I said, you're not looking for an expose here. You're just looking to see, do they, how much of his life as a human do they examine away from the stage, the songwriting, the dance choreography, the superstardom, the tours? How much are they actually willing to go behind the scenes with this guy, given that it is the state at the controls?
Yes, there's a bunch of stuff that they can get into here, but if they go into that, my whole thinking is, how are they going to do it? Are people going to be looking for it? Are people going to be looking?
Yes, I think is the answer to that question. Are they looking for some insight into that? Yes, absolutely. Right? Like, do they want to see this guy sleeping in the hyperbaric chamber? Yeah, they do want to see it. Right? Like, that's part of what made it a curiosity. They do want to see that. And I think there's an understanding of like, yeah, I'm seeing a movie. It's not going to be, as I said, it's not going to be a documentary of the guy's life. But I think if you just pretend like there was none of that, he didn't have any peculiarities or quirks, and he was just a genius on stage, like, I think people will be like, well, this is kind of a hollow biopic, as entertaining as it might be. A half-hearted attempt at a biopic that went really wrong was the Whitney Houston biopic, where like they tangentially touch on her drug use, and then obviously she dies of an overdose, but like the movie doesn't really build any stakes to that, so that when it happens, it kind of just feels like you tacked it on, fast forwarded, and now she's gone. And so that pick really kind of came and went and was a real disappointment in my eyes, despite the actress portraying her doing a creditable job of bringing her to life. So, and I kind of try, like, Fook was like pretty good director. Like, I kind of trust, like, visually, you could see it in the teaser. The guy knows how to shoot. And I think this is going to look pretty awesome.
Yes. So no $2 billion.
I don't think 2, but I like I said, I think 1.2, 1.3 absolutely in play, with the international market being like 75% of that.
I'm saying no more than 1.7.
I mean, that would be one of the
No
10
less
biggest
than
movies of all
1.5.
time, though. Yeah.
Between 1.5, 1.7, I think is the range.
I
That'd be
mean, I think
crazy, but it's Michael we talking about, Brian.
I get it. But I mean, like, you know how much money that would make the studio? I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody, the budget was $50 million. I don't think the budget for this is higher because of the reshoot. But even if the budget for this is $100 million, like, they're going to make gobs on their investment.
The Jackson family has always been about doing big numbers, man. Seeing the vision.
I mean, Janet's still out there touring. She pulls in
the Jackson universe, yo.
Yeah. I saw her show. She was good.
You have Michael Jackson. You have then Janet Jackson. Whether they do a movie about that, I don't know. But you have all these perspectives. I'm pretty sure these dudes are gonna have their own books after this, yo. They're gonna milk this as much as possible, yo. You see how they're I think what's the actor's name that played Alfred in Nolan's movie? Forget his name.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. He made a deal with 11 Labs so that they can use his voice. I'm pretty sure others are going to come along. But to use the likeness of Michael in films, he always wanted to be Peter Pan. The estate would have no problem doing that, Brian. To get that money, of course. So this is going to be instrumental in the future of the Jacksons' estate and what they are be able to do after this, because this, Brian, is going to be huge. Because the only thing to think about is, okay, we got Janet now. What's up with Janet? Marlon, go for it. You know what I'm saying? Tito, all of them joints. Jermaine, forget about it, yo. The Jackson universe is going to be born from this, yo. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of all we've discussed in The Void. A lot of things happening. He-Man, I'm telling you, man, I can't get... I'm like John Rambo. I can't get it out of my head. I can't get it out of my head of how big this is going to be, what we're going to be witnessing. Every time I've talked about He-Man in the past, I've talked about how ridiculous this could be. It's He-Man. You got Ram Man, Fisto. There's some crazy ass names here, man. So, this is gonna be very enjoyable. But yeah, again, hit that like and subscribe. Comment in the comment section below. And again, if you haven't heard it anywhere else, you heard it here first on the Nerd Gen Report. We'll see you next time.